So yeah, Matt, thank you so much again for saying yes to the summit and to jumping on this call with me, because disease like cancer is for many people really life-threatening disease, and often we are in such a shock that we don't know what to do, what should our first or last step was. So with your amazing experience, can you tell us who you are and your story? Why are you here? Why are you decided to help others?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 31 years old. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, which is in the United States for anyone listening. Best way to explain it if you don't know where Cleveland, Ohio is just think of New York City, and I'm about 6 hours west of New York City. So that's the easiest way I can explain it. But yeah, so my entire life has been predicated around health. I'm a personal trainer, a wellness director, meaning I go work for a company where I create a healthy atmosphere for employees. And on top of all that, now as a cancer survivor,
Mhm.
I use my message, my story, my lessons to really help and impact others who are going through challenging experiences themselves. It doesn't necessarily have to be cancer, but it's people who've gone through challenging experiences and on the other end of it feel
Mhm.
like they have a second purpose, a second chance in life, and they want to do something greater, but I want to help them heal through that process because, as you were saying, Eva, after you get out of the hospital or after you get through these traumatic experiences, it can be a very lonely journey.
Mhm.
You can feel like you're alone in a lot of these situations, and you feel like even though you may have your family and things like that, they didn't necessarily go through the exact experience you went through. So sometimes you feel like I don't know where to go next. I feel like I have this huge vision and nobody can see it but me.
Mhm.
And for myself, a couple of things that have really helped me was number one was my faith. I don't push that on anybody. I don't push faith on anyone, but whatever your faith is, stay strong in it because that may be the only thing you have in the beginning, even when you're going through your journey too. So if you're going through something challenging right now as well, and you're in the middle of it, your faith may be that number one thing that helps you push through mentally and physically. And then number two was learning to find people in my community or in my similar interests that have a similar goal as I do or a vision so
Mhm.
that I can either feed off of them or somebody who's done something that um, I am looking to eventually achieve. So the reason I started, I have a Facebook group with cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers. And the reason I have that group is because I know the struggle mentally, emotionally, physically that I went through. And I want to be that mentor and I want to be that guide. And I know, Eva, you're doing the exact same thing. You want to be that guide for other people. So there's going to be people that need to look up to us, or we even have people that we look up to that help us get to where we need to be. So that's just a little bit about myself, a little bit about my journey, but my story in general. I'll share like a kind of a quick version, and then we can dive deep into however you'd like to go into it. So I'm 31 years old. At the age of 24, I was diagnosed with stage 3C testicular cancer. And that's basically the same thing as stage 4, but when you're in testicular cancer realm,
Mhm.
that's the highest it goes. So what had happened was I was very, very healthy at the time. I was a personal trainer. I was doing all these healthy activities. And then I started to have these back pains throughout the summer. And me being a 24-year-old, when you're in your 20s, you're stubborn sometimes and you're like, I'm not going to a doctor. I'm not going to go get checked up. So for myself, I said, I'm just going to work through this. It's probably because I'm lifting, blah, blah, blah. And one night, I ended up puking up blood. I
Oh.
get rushed to the emergency room. They found out that I had lost two-thirds of the blood circulating in my body, which is equivalent to being shot with a gun. I get 6 bags of blood immediately, go in for an emergency surgery to figure out what was causing the bleeding. And the next morning, I wake up thinking I'm ready to go home because I of course, didn't think it was cancer. My doctor walks in, he sits down, and he goes, Matt, we found an 11 centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We
Mm.
know it is cancer. We just don't know what type yet. So
Mm.
they rushed me over to what's called the Cleveland Clinic, which is in the United States one of the top 3 hospitals, and it's really one of the top hospitals in the world. Thank goodness. So it was right at my doorstep. But they did a bunch of tests, found out that I had that stage 3C testicular cancer, and I'll tell you right now, mentally, it was just a whirlwind. You go from thinking some minor things happening in your life to now your entire life's turned around and you're fighting for it. And I would say there are points and times where I had to really lean on my support system as well, throughout that journey. And, even though they may not have been able to relate in the cancer realm, they could relate in a helping me kind of just talk through some things and focus on where I needed to go next. So immediately I went on to 5 rounds of chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy I was on was called BEP. Now, BEP is bleomycin etoposide cisplatin. If you're in the cancer realm, you may know what some of those drugs are, you may not. But it was very potent drugs. I was on it for about 3.5 months, lost my hair, lost, super fatigued all the time, dropped about 40 to 45 pounds. And, when I finally finished chemotherapy, I thought that, okay, that's the hardest part. It's time to, hopefully now I can recover. But unfortunately, I ended up having a 12-hour surgery to remove so what had happened was they had to remove my tumor, and they had to remove the rest of the cancer in my body. So they had to do a 12-hour surgery to do all of this. And unfortunately, I had many, many complications along the way. What had happened was my body decided to unfortunately shut down. I had kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside my head because I had so much swelling from the surgery. They ended up having to release 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach eventually after a few surgeries. And they had a cone drilled in my head because they thought there was potential brain swelling. I ended up falling into a 2-week non-induced coma. I ended up being in the ICU for over 40 days. I was in the Cleveland Clinic for over 53 days. And I ended up having 5 major surgeries along the way. A week out of my coma, I had a catheter in my neck because they thought I was going to potentially be on dialysis the rest of my life. And they end up seeing progress, but they take out the catheter. I have an air rhythm heartbeat. I go into cardiac arrest. They have to do 8 minutes of CPR on me, bring me back to life. And I fall into another 1-week coma. Throughout this whole entire process, I dropped down from this healthy, from what I thought was 185-pound personal trainer. I don't know kilograms, so I have to use pounds in the US. Sorry about that. But 185 pounds, and you can kind of do the math with kilograms, down to 110 pounds in just a matter of 8 months. And I had to learn to walk again, relearn to rebuild my entire life again. And, it took about 2 years after all of this to recover myself mentally, physically, emotionally. Today cool story. Just a few weeks ago, I got my blood work and I'm officially 6 years cancer free. So it's a very incredible. Thank you. But what I would say is it's the recovery process is a very lonely journey because you don't have nurses, you don't have doctors every day trying to help you, whether it's through physical therapy, checking your blood work, making sure you're doing X, Y, and Z. So like I was saying before, I really had to go back to my roots of, focusing on what can I do to win today? And it's just small steps towards really pushing yourself towards that goal. So if you have a goal of healing yourself, just focus on one small goal today and then say, how can I compound it tomorrow? Meaning, how can I use that goal to help push me forward tomorrow? And just makes these small goals, and eventually you'll heal yourself. Eventually you'll get to where you need to be, but don't think you're going to get there overnight. For me, it took a few years. Maybe it'll take you a few months. Maybe it'll take you a few years. But all I'll say is it was a challenging journey, but now I want to give back because I realized after I healed myself, and I have a little saying, in order to be selfless for others, you must be selfish for yourself. And what I mean by that is if you can't take care of yourself first, it is impossible to be able to give back and impact others the way that you want to, because you haven't fully healed yourself yet. So for me, once I healed myself, I was like, how do I help others? How do I give back? And that is where I've gotten into coaching. That is where I built my Facebook group. And I've also got to speak around the country, and I've done podcasts, and interviews around the world, which has been incredible. So I just want to let you know, if you're going through something challenging right now, just know on the other end, if you can just focus on today of what do I need to do next to better myself, to heal myself, and you know, rely on your faith, rely on your support system, I promise you, when you get on to the other side, you have such a greater purpose and such a bigger path. And yes, there's going to be ups and down days. I had many down days. I want to reiterate, I'm not just this positive, like go lucky person all the time. There were many days where I wanted to give up, but I just put one foot in front of the other. That's all I could do some days. And you know, I just want to let you know you can get there. It is possible. And, you know, I'm a living testimony to kind of share that.
Wow. What a story, but it's just incredible. Wow, it's like a script for a movie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
When I was listening to it, it's just, I had so many aha moments. But one of the things I would like to dive deeper is, you know, what were you, how your self-talk was really looking when you were in this moment of shock, of, because I can really relate to a lot of points in your story, especially when you're a young person and you got, or not even young, it's just you think you are healthy, and then you get this shocking diagnosis, and then one thing after another, you think it's finished, but it's not. And yeah, like you explained, it took you years. And when you know, a month is a long time, a year is a very long time, and even more, it's all this moment that you went through. Take me back to some maybe particular moment that you had a maybe crisis. How your thinking, you know, went through. What are you telling to yourself not to, in order not to give up?
Yeah. So I would tell you, there's a few times. There's a couple of big turning points. You know, one was, you know, we'll go back to when I was first diagnosed. So when I was first diagnosed, I remember it was just me and my parents, and my wife now, Lauren, which is a huge part of my journey too. She was only dating me, so we just got married this past September, which was incredible. Thank you, appreciate it. But she was only dating me for 2 months before I was diagnosed with cancer, and so she's just been like almost like an angel for me. She's been absolutely. She was literally pretty much you know, the reason I'm here. I feel like her and my parents, and you know, I had incredible family and friends too, absolutely amazing friends and family. But when I was first diagnosed, I just remember nobody else knew, just my parents at the time, and I remember looking over at them, and I remember seeing them crying. And for me, this 24-year-old, I felt like at the time I needed to hold in my emotions. And as a you know, women, you know, are a lot better at this. You know, you guys, you ladies are very well at sharing your emotions most of the time. Where us men, we
Yeah.
tend to hold things in a lot. And for me, I thought if I hold this in, I stay strong, and I look like I'm just, you know, have this warrior hat on, I'll be
Mm,
just fine. And what
mm,
I realized was actually making it so much worse, because all this mental baggage that
mm,
kept putting on me was just getting harder and harder and harder. And I remember a few days later, friends and family were coming in, and finally Lauren arrived.
mhm.
And I remember just seeing her, and I was so nervous because I didn't know if she wanted to stay with me. I mean, we were only dating 2 months, and she finds out that I have, you know, stage 4, basically cancer. And she comes up to me and just gives me the biggest and warmest hug. And I just remember breaking down finally and just crying. And I let everything go.
Mm,
And that right there, me being vulnerable in that situation,
mm,
was one of my greatest strengths, because it allowed me to release all of the mental and emotional baggage that I've been holding on for days. And finally, now I
mm,
can take that and say, how do I focus on healing myself instead of holding in everything? A lot of the times, the reason why it's hard for us to heal is because we're holding on to everything that's blocking us from taking that next step towards healing or towards having that breakthrough in our life. So for me, that was my first situation of learning that it's okay to share with what you're going through, and you don't have to share it to the world, but just sharing it with somebody that you love, or letting your guard down is okay, because it will allow you to finally focus on what's truly important. Because when we hold all that stuff in, we focus on things that may not necessarily help us push ourselves forward. So that would be my first one. And then when it came to recovery, I'll share my second one really quickly.
sure.
Was my second breakthrough was coming out of the hospital, I pretty much immediately on like day 1 or 2 went to a victim mindset. I started to have a why me mentality because I didn't have the doctors, I didn't have the nurses, like I was saying before, constantly holding me accountable. So after about a week, you know, I got really sick again. I ended up going into the hospital. My blood pressure was through the roof. My temperature, once again, I don't know Celsius too well, but I was at 104 degrees Fahrenheit with my temperature. So you can do the math Celsius. And my standing heart rate was at 150 beats a minute, which is super, super high. So I ended up staying in the hospital for over a week. And I get back and I have one of the most important conversations with Lauren of my life. And that conversation came to Matt, if you do not start progressing and you stop getting out of, if you don't stop getting out of this victim mindset, there is a good chance, unfortunately, that you will not be here next month. Literally life or death for me. And that was a massive turning point of, wow, okay, what do I have to do today to start healing myself? And then I just started focusing on one little task a day to just start progressing myself forward. So those are my two biggest things that I would tell people is let your guard down. It's okay to be vulnerable around certain people. Don't feel like you have to hold all your emotions in. And number two is make sure you, if you find yourself falling into a victim mindset, try to snap out of it and just focus on one critical task a day that will help heal and help progress yourself forward.
Wow, that's amazing. I love both of them because first of all, the first one, I think, especially when we are going through the journey of healing and we see our closer ones who are in tears, we tend to have this inner voice who said, okay, just pretend that you are fine and take care of them almost, you know, of their emotional well-being. So it's such a great story that you share with us to explain that it's actually necessary to find that one person or a group of person, if you have, to let go, and especially when you are men, because as you mentioned, I think sometimes it's easier for us women because we do it naturally sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Our emotions, but for me, yeah, I that was a big lesson also to learn, share my emotions and to say that I'm not okay, and to be okay with that. That was huge. And the second thing, this is like almost the biggest part of my work now, to help people understand that there is such a thing like a victim mindset. Because my book is called Healing Mindset, How Cancer Activated My 8 Superpowers, where I actually take, you know, through my journey, through the difficult points where I had to literally transform the pain and fear into something that allow me to put step forward and leave. So I really deeply appreciate that, because I think that many of people don't call it victimhood. They are not even aware that it's not okay. So it's great that someone was able to tell you that. I mean, wow. And what would you say to people who are shocked by that message? Because for some of people, when I meet with them, they almost like that, you know. I quoted like it because it's just they are so desperate for attention and love that they receive in that moment, that they are afraid if they are not in this, they will not be so seen if they will not be in this victim position.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, it's so critical of the people that you surround yourself with. Because if you are surrounding yourself with people that are in the same mindset of a victim mindset as you, that all they want to talk about is how much they don't like their job or how bad their family life is, or how only talking about how they want to go out and drink on the weekends because they want to, you know, get rid of all the emotional, you know, stress that they've had throughout the week. Guess what you're going to fall into? You're going to fall into that exact same mindset. And unfortunately, sometimes the reason we feel good is because we want acceptance in our life. And acceptance and sometimes comes from, you know, feeling like this victim, and people can feed off that. Just like you said, if you're surrounding yourself with those type of people, they're going to accept you because they're feeling the exact same way. And it's almost like it's so vicious because it's like a toxic way of just like interacting and speaking with each other. You will never progress forward if all you feel like is in a victim mindset. I will tell you this, it is 100%
Mhm.
okay to grieve. It's 100% okay to be upset. But
Mhm.
to live in that situation is what's going to cause you massive, massive pain and suffering and just lack of progress moving forward because you're living in that situation. Grieve for however long you need to grieve, be in that pain for however long you need, but there's a point in time where you have to move forward, because guess what, the
Mhm.
only person that can make that change in your life is you. You're the only person who can truly make that change. You can have incredible people around you and all this, but you're the one who ultimately needs to make that change. And that's why I say, if you surround yourself with the right people, they will help hold you accountable. They will switch your mindset. They will help keep you in a more positive outlook state. Now, of course, we're going to still have ups and downs, but you have to be willing to recognize if you're in a situation where you're just surrounding yourself with people who have the exact same victim mindset as you, and it's not going to help. And I'm not saying you just have to eliminate all those people of your life, but what you should do is you should limit your time with some of those people and add more time with others. And the reason I think people have a tough time doing that is because they're worried what other people may think of them when they start finding a new group, when they start finding new friends. And unfortunately, I had, one or two friends that didn't like the fact that I was surrounding myself with different people. They were incredible in supporting me through my cancer journey. But when I wanted to do something bigger with my life and I said, hey, I need to surround myself with other like-minded individuals that are in a similar path than me, I feel like they felt like I was like making them feel less of. And I
Mhm.
wasn't. It was the total opposite. I was doing something so I could do something bigger. They just weren't in the same position as me. They weren't necessarily negative people, but what they were is they just didn't have the same mindset or the same goals as I did. And that right there, I want to let you know that it is okay to spend a little bit less time with maybe even sometimes family or close friends that you used to have, a strong relationship in high school with, but now you're mature, you're older, and you realize that you have just something deeper in your heart to go for. You may need to surround yourself with different people. And that's why I built this Facebook group community too, so that people can not feel alone and feel like if I do have somewhere where I want to go or I need to help healing, there's so many people in this group that can help you along the way so you don't feel alone in the process.
Yeah, this is definitely super helpful, and thanks to internet, we have now this kind of places, so you don't have to say that there is nobody around you, because sometimes you live in a place where you don't have physically those people, but you can always reach out to your group, and it's really really great to have access to this kind of environment where people have different mentality, and it's super super important to see that you can not only overcome but create something more meaningful after this kind of disease. And the last question I have for you is, what kind of habits you have now for yourself to take care of yourself, physically, concerning disease, but also mentally, to know, because life is life, to be able to appreciate life even after this kind of traumatic events that you had.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing physically is making sure that you get in 30 to 45 minutes of some type of movement a day. You don't have to go crazy. I'm a little more on the extreme side. I go to the gym 45 minutes at least to an hour every, 5 to 6 days a week. I'll get in, 2 to 3 days of cardio. And that's maybe why I feel so amazing now. I mean, I'm actually 185, 190 pounds. I feel incredible. I feel so strong. And it's because I was able to do that. But if you're just starting off,
Mhm.
just getting in every day, going for a small little walk or doing something that is getting your body moving 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day is going to help clear your mind too. So talk about physical, going to your mental side of it, because what I've noticed, especially if you can get outside, I understand sometimes it can get really cold or there's, winter, whatnot, but if you can get outside,
Mhm.
it will clear your thoughts. It will clear your mind. Going for a walk is one of the most therapeutic things I could do because it allows me to create more ideas. It allows me to eliminate all of the stress and the baggage I've been holding on throughout the day. And it's allowed me also to just get clear on my goals, where I want to go next, and give me new ideas along the way as well. That's the power of movement and the power of nature. So I would say just get outside, get moving. And as for your nutrition, you don't need to go on these crazy diet plans or anything like that. I mean, I've been in the health field for 10 years, and I will tell you the number one thing I would say is focus on quality foods, your
Mhm.
fruits, your vegetables, lean proteins. If you're not vegetarian or vegan, get your lean meats in. Focusing on healthy fats. When I say healthy fats, focus on the oils you're using. Are you using seed oils and vegetable oils? Those are not good for you. You want to eat, or you want to use more of what's called like olive oil, a lot of which I know is very common, in Europe, which is great, using olive oil, avocado oil, things like that. So quality foods, number one. Don't worry about all these crazy nutrition plans. Just focus on quality foods and you're going to just start feeling better. And then lastly, making sure you're drinking a lot of water as well, but also getting in electrolytes. And electrolytes is what gives you your energy, allows to replenish those cells. And the importance in a good way of getting electrolytes is actually through natural foods, and that's going to be your fruits. So making sure you get fruits in throughout the day, along with drinking a lot of water, will really help with those electrolytes. So that's the physical side of it. And then the mental side of it is, you know, like I was kind of saying before, I think I have a little saying, and it's everything in life happens for you, not to you. And how I really try, I'm not perfect at this by any means, but how I really try to look at it is you can look at it any situation in two different ways. You can say, why is this situation happening to me? Meaning you are the victim of the situation. You make excuses of why you can't do X, Y, and Z. And eventually you just let that situation control your life and define who you are. Or you could say, how is life happening for me? I know it's not fair. I know this is a really challenging situation in life, but remember, the only person who can make that change is yourself. So for me, what can I do to learn from this challenge, learn from this setback, and ultimately help it become a better version of myself? But more importantly, how can I eventually use it to help inspire, impact, and heal others along the way as well? So that is a mindset kind of trick that I've always had. And lastly, I would say what's helped me through a lot of my anxiety, my stress. I used to have very strong anxiety in my life. I would have panic attacks and things like that.
Mhm.
What has helped me so much is when I am focusing on giving back and helping others after, of course, I've healed certain parts of my life,
Mhm.
that stress kind of almost eliminates in my life because I'm not focusing constantly on myself. The reason we have so much stress in our life is because we're always worried about us, 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 us. What are we doing today? How are we doing this? And when you give the focus towards healing and helping others, then you take all that stress and pain away from you, and you allow yourself to find the joy and find the passion to inspire and heal others. So I would say when you can start to learn to just slowly maybe give back and help other people, it will slowly start to eliminate the stress in your life because you feel like you have a purpose now. You feel like you have a passion, and you're not constantly focusing on you. You're giving back to others.
Wow. I love every tip that you share with us. I think it's simple, but yet very, very, very powerful. And lastly, where can people find you? If someone wants to find you, where is the best place to look for you?
Absolutely. So the best place to find me is my website. It's called Matt, Matt, Ode, Ode, speaks.com. I have all my social media platforms on there.
Mhm.
Also, if you're looking for somebody to do a podcast with, or even potentially hire somebody to speak at an event, it's
Mhm.
all on my website. So it's Matt, Ode, speaks.com. And I can send it to you as well, Eva. But you
Yes,
know,
of course. We will put that also in the emails so people can just click and
perfect.
and
Yeah.
go.
And if you're
Wow.
looking to join my Facebook group really quickly too, which is the cancer group, or I also have a Facebook group for health and fitness as well.
Mhm.
Um, all you have to do is send me a friend request on Facebook and then send me a direct message just saying, hey, I watched your podcast with Eva. I was just looking to get into your Facebook group. I'll send you the link and I'll get you right in.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.